I mean, to do 13, did you do the 14th one? Did you say you also completed the...
Yeah, exactly. I have all 14.
Okay.
This year is pretty intensive when it comes to certifications because since the beginning I passed about 25 or 28 certificates this year only, because I'm also approaching to Google certificates, to AWS.
It's not even been 28 weeks this year, right? So it's more than...
No. I'm doing because I did one by one, day after day. So
more than one certification a week. So you're definitely a machine in getting certified. So it's time to bring in our special guest. So we have Łukasz. Łukasz recently completed the Golden Kubestronaut, not just the Kubestronaut, but the Golden Kubestronaut that has 13 or so certifications in a matter of 6 weeks, which is incredible. So I would like to bring in Łukasz and get his ask him some questions and help share some of his tips and tricks with us. So Łukasz, thank you so much for joining this session. Really appreciate your time. Would you like to give a quick introduction about yourself and what you do?
Exactly. Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to this session. So, my name is Łukasz. I'm from Poland. I'm living in Poznań city, which is one of the major cities of Poland. On a daily basis, right now, I'm working as a senior manager of operations and site reliability engineering team. I switched the role on the beginning of this year because previously I managed the DevOps team. And on a daily basis, I'm managing the team of DevOps and site reliability experts. So that's briefly information about.
Awesome stuff. Can you give us a little bit more about your background? So Poland, I've had a few colleagues who have had worked with from Poland. I know there's a lot of tech talent there, a big pool of talent that we've worked with in the past. So how many years of, maybe we start with can you share a little bit about your background? Did you do computer science? Is that in your education?
Okay. Yeah. So it's pretty funny because I started really, really early. Yeah. Even in my primary school, I started learning programming languages. So my main domain is not especially DevOps and infrastructures. I'm mainly in programming. I can write code in multiple languages, but I'm not doing this on the daily basis. And then I completed the university, the engineering degree, and on my master's degree, I completed the psychology because I wanted to manage the teams. So that was pretty it. But most of my technological skills I learned on my own by writing the code during my experience in the companies. I had also a great opportunity to work in different environments because I started working in an outsourcing company which outsourced the DevOps services to the others, and this gave me a broader view on in multiple industries, in different projects with different, traffic requirements and different scales of infrastructures, from the very small to huge ones. Then I worked in a startup company which also changed my mindset and approach, and I had this feeling we are working in startup, with the multiple teams of engineering teams building the microservices architectures for the globally available product. And right now I'm working in a huge biopharma company, so this is the way more higher scale right now. So I had this pleasure, getting my knowledge and experience from multiple different environments, and approaches.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just that journey from doing a master's in a completely different area to then learning on your own. Maybe tell us a little bit about that. What resources did you use in the earlier days to learn things on your own, and what made you move into the tech field in the first place?
Okay, so maybe on the very beginning, I was an owner of a gaming community. It's pretty different thing because, and I had the biggest community of when it comes to TeamSpeak free servers. It was a community during my prime time. I had about 5,000 online people on my servers or something like that. Yeah, so this was a huge environment which allowed me to build some technology for this to make some improvements. So I started with writing some bots to my server, some infrastructure, automation. We also had some team of programmers, and we automated the full software delivery lifecycle processes there. But mainly, I prefer gathering team skills from the private labs that I'm trying to maintain on, if I can, on a daily basis. Yeah, because I have my private lab. It's a set of scripts, set of Terraform code that allows me to span quickly my Kubernetes cluster. And basing on this Kubernetes cluster, we have this really nice cloud-native computing foundation landscape of technologies, which helps you pretty well to find something interesting. And I'm just selecting the technology from the landscape, which seems to me to be interesting for me. And I'm trying to deploy this technology, to check where I can use that, to learn as much as I can, to find something interesting in the documentation, maybe to find other use cases of the technologies. So this is the mostly way that I'm learning new technologies. And to be honest, I tested almost all the technologies from the landscape, or maybe I'm aware of them. And this significantly amplify the way and your skill set throughout the time. So answering more broad your question. Most of my skill set I have from my personal trainings, and then when I had opportunity to work, for example, for the certain projects in the companies professionally, when we had some challenges, when we had something that required additional knowledge to resolve, maybe when we were on the point to select some, cloud native technologies to push products forward, to optimize something, it gave me also opportunity to better understand the ecosystem, the possibilities, and make some propositions to start from the POCs to the production implementations. So I think that the skill set is crucial, and also awareness what we can achieve with the cloud native technologies, for example. Of course, we need also to know the landscapes on the clouds if we want, with cloud offerings, if we are working directly on the cloud providers as well.
So what sparked that initial interest in the whole cloud native space? When was that, and what brought you into this cloud native space, and then later, learning and getting certified? We'll get to the getting certified part in a bit, but maybe help us understand what brought you into the cloud native space in the first place.
Okay, so definitely it was a Kubernetes technology, because when I first heard about Kubernetes, I knew that it will be a future, And right now, I'm still thinking like I did before, because because Kubernetes for me is kind of framework or ecosystem which allows us to build a lot of other things on top of it. We started with the container orchestration. Then we have some interesting technology like KubeVirt, for example, which allows us to orchestrate virtual machines as well. Then we can create virtual clusters. Then we have other technologies that allows us to build other, for example, our own operators and use the Kubernetes API to build our internal ecosystem to manage different complex set of applications or services. And for me, Kubernetes become some kind of platform, some kind of extendable API that allows us to orchestrate many things. And right now, going forward, I think we have a really great point of use when it comes to Kubernetes and AI models orchestrations as well, because this is the challenge that we need to face. So definitely Kubernetes was the first point of contact when it comes to cloud native computing foundation and other cloud native technologies. And I'm super happy that our community grows. Yeah.
So what made you start the certification side of things? Like, why did you decide that you had to get certified?
Okay, so my first certification path was mostly related to outsourcing company, because certificates converted to the better, work with the clients as a proof for the clients that we have particular skill set and we can deliver the projects. So this was my first contact with the certificates ever. When it comes to, and during the time I started to collect some certificates, but I wasn't super happy with that. And after some time, I decided that I want to challenge myself and to use certificates as some kind of check marks or something which will give me feedback about my current state of the knowledge. Yeah. So that was my starting point. Going forward, I heard about Kubestronaut program, but to be honest, I didn't have a time to do this on the very beginning of when this program was announced. And on the ending of 2024, I decided to buy a bundle and to do Kubestronaut throughout 2025. And in January 2025, I started passing certificates, and it appeared to me that I found the post right after KubeCon in India that unofficially Golden Kubestronaut program was announced. And it was really hard to find any information how to get the Golden Kubestronaut. So I reached out to some people, a few people via LinkedIn to check out what's going on and what it is, what is the concept behind it. And throughout the time, I noted that I need to pass all 14 certificates, because right now you need to pass 13 certificates when it comes to CNCF technologies, plus this Linux certificate, LFCS1, to achieve Golden Kubestronaut. So when I started taking the certificates from the Kubestronaut bundle, I thought, okay, so maybe I will try to be, because I previously had experience with, for example, Prometheus, with OpenTelemetry, with other technologies that are covered by CNCF certifications. I thought, okay, so I will try to, if I pass one exam, I will schedule another one, and I will check where the boundaries of my knowledge are. And and for me, it's funny because I passed all of them at the first step. And in my opinion, it's pretty, I encourage people to do so, because CNCF allows you to have this other take if you will fail at the first time. Hence my strategy. I decided, okay, if I fail, I will check what went wrong. I will do some improvements in my knowledge, because we have, the documentations, we have multiple videos on YouTube, we have a lot of free materials. We can even spam a cheap lab on some kind of infrastructure, not on the major cloud, maybe on the other cloud providers, maybe on virtual machines locally, and we can test them and learn via hands-on experience. So that was my approach, and hopefully I made it. But the interesting thing is also that when I passed all 13 certificates, I was super happy. Okay, I have Golden Kubestronaut. I was aware, okay, it's unofficial yet. And I contacted one person who also has the Golden Kubestronaut. And he told me, no, you need to pass the Linux related certificate to have all 14. So I instantly, scheduled an exam to do this. So yeah, I think it's a great pleasure to check the knowledge, to learn from the certifications, because if you have multiple questions, like 75 questions during the exam, for example, after the exam, you can check what went well, where you had the challenges, what was difficult for you. So basing on these difficulties, I also noted it down, and at post-exam, even if I succeed, I did some additional research to fill the gaps, to improve my knowledge. Yeah, and yeah, so you can also treat the certifications as some kind of feedback. Yeah, some kind of a path, let's say, of learning path. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So, to do 13, did you do the 14th one? Did you say you also completed the?
Yeah, exactly. I have all 14.
Okay.
This year is pretty intensive when it comes to certifications, because since the beginning, I passed about 25 or 28 certificates this year only, because I'm also approaching to Google certificate, to AWS. Yeah, I did some recent week. I did some certificates related to GitHubs also. So yeah.
Okay. 28 you said? What, 20?
I think it will be something like this. I can't recall the exact number, but more than 25 certificates this year.
So it's not even been 28 weeks this year, right? So it's
no. I'm doing more than in some way, because the January, and when I approached to Golden Kubestronaut, maybe amplified my numbers, because I did one by one, day after day. So yeah.
So more than one certification a week. So you're definitely a machine in getting certified. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? By the way, did you get the beanie, the golden beanie, because they announced?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you have the blue Kubestronaut jacket for those who are Kubestronaut, and if you're a golden Kubestronaut, you get the golden kind of beanie, which they announced during the KubeCon this time.
Yeah. I didn't thought to get this for the live stream, but I have this in the other room. But yeah, I got one, and it was pretty impressive moment when CNCF announced the Golden Kubestronaut during the KubeCon. When we had all this, jackets and beanies, and they pointed the camera on us, it was a really impressive moment. So I'm really happy that this program is officially announced, and I encourage everyone to take a part in it, because it's a great challenge, and I think it's really rewarding.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to, I think I have a picture, like were you part of those who stood up during the keynote? A bunch of Kubestronaut actually stood up for the photo, right? Were you part of that group?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I have that picture somewhere. I'll find that, and we can share that. But yeah, I think that's pretty impressive. So let's talk about the how, right? So we've talked about the why and the why you did it, but now let's talk about the how, which is what we're all interested in hearing. So tell us a little bit about maybe the order of it. Like, what did you start with, and then do you remember in what order you took the certification, or at least at a high level, what was the order?
Order of my certifications, yeah?
Yes.
So I have the graphics with the calendar on one of my LinkedIn posts when I showed the exact approach. But I ordered exams from the basing on my thinking from the easiest for me to the hardest. Because and when it comes to the Kubernetes certifications, those were pretty easy for me because I have a lot of experience with Kubernetes. But I must say that the CKS is pretty challenging after the recent changes. Because it requires super broad knowledge to approach to this exam, and also it's the timeline. The time that you have to pass the exam is pretty tight when it comes to this particular exam. For other ones, I pretty quickly approach to the GitHubs, to the Argo CD one. Yeah, exactly. That's the picture. And OpenTelemetry was also pretty easy for me. When it comes to Cilium, for example, they have a great platform. I used this to learn before the exam. So Cilium was also pretty easy for me because of great sources of knowledge. I think the hardest exam for me was Backstage because I have a little experience with it. And this exam particularly requires from you a lot of coding and understanding of the code from the backend and front-end side of Backstage and its concepts. So this exam, in my opinion, is pretty hard. And the best way to prepare for this exam is to, deploy the Backstage and try to implement something. And the hardest one, 27th of January, Istio.
Okay.
I think this is the hardest certificate because you have two parts. You have hands-on questions where you need to write manifests, and you have a multiple choice questions when you need to select the right answer for the question. And this exam was pretty hard because it requires writing long manifests, and the time for this exam is super tight. In my opinion, you don't have so much time to even check the documentation. You need to have a great strategy for this exam to write, for example, manifests as quick as you can and try to adjust them for the other questions than writing from the scratch, because the time is cruel during this exam. And I also exchanged some thoughts with the other Golden Kubestronauts about this exam, and we are sharing our thoughts. Yeah, so they are also thinking that this exam is pretty tough. So Istio is definitely the hardest one. And what we can see on this picture, we are lacking of this Linux LFPS exam, which is the last one. I took it on 29th or 13th, I can recall. But Linux, if someone has experience with Linux, this exam is pretty easy. It requires knowledge related to the Linux operating system. Yeah. So if you have if you want to defend any other knowledge about the exams, I think I said everything.
So on 4th Jan, you did the KCNA, and then you have on the next day you did the CKA, and then the next day you did the CKAD.
Yeah. And extra info, between 7th and 13th, I was on the vacation.
You had yeah.
So
you couldn't find a system to take the exam. That was the main limitation. Otherwise, or you were on vacation, right? Otherwise, you would have done it sooner. I get it. I get the idea. So okay, so the KCNA, the KCNA, CKA, and CKAD. Like, what was your preparation like before that? So you said you did have some experience working with Kubernetes, but what was your? But maybe tell us a little bit about the experience that you get by working on Kubernetes versus the knowledge needed to do the actual, get the actual certification, right? Is there a big difference there?
I don't think so, but I think it's worth mentioning that in many companies, we are using external technologies for solving certain problems that are doable via regular Kubernetes capabilities, like, for example, canary deployments, yeah? So you can do the canary deployments basing on the services, on the, Kubernetes without any extensions, but you can use other technologies, like, for example, Traffic, like Knative, like Istio, like other, for example, reverse proxies like Contour, like Envoy, and I can mention many more of them. And professionally, in companies, we are using, enterprise technologies to solve certain problems, and we can miss some basic knowledge about the Kubernetes that something is doable with the regular manifests or regular abilities that we have by default. So yeah, but mostly when it comes to those 3 exams, I think they are pretty easy. And the regular knowledge about the Kubernetes ecosystem, how Kubernetes works, about the services that are building the cluster, like scheduler, API, Kubernetes API, like control plane, like cloud controller manager, and the basic knowledge about manifests and Kubernetes capabilities is enough to approach to those exams. The harder part is this certificate I passed during the 14th of January. I can't recall the exact name, but this is the multiple choice exam related to this Kubernetes security. For me, it was pretty hard to prepare to this exam. I used the official Kubernetes documentation to be prepared for this. I think in the internet, I couldn't find, to be honest, any best source of, knowledge how to be prepared for this exam. And it can be challenging, but the most challenging from the Kubestronaut path is, CKS, yeah? This is the king of the certificates, let's say, because it required super broad knowledge, how to generate S-bombs, how to analyze Kubernetes, how to harden the Kubernetes setup. It requires super broad understanding of the security aspects of the Kubernetes, but not only Kubernetes, also, containerization. When it comes to hardening the containers, it's themselves, yeah.
Yep. Got it. So, by the way, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to post it here in the chat, and we'll pick them, and either to me or Łukasz, feel free to ask your questions, and we'll bring it on here, and we'll try and answer them. So don't wait for the end. I think we have about 10-12 minutes more, right? So if you have questions, feel free to share that, and we can start picking them. Okay, so you mentioned so the security side of things was that new to you from your experience? Like, did you have experience working on security, or did you find these concepts like completely new?
No, definitely not, because I was a leader of the DevSecOps team in one of the companies that I work for. And maybe I used some other tools to build the security coverage of the full software development life cycle process, because we are not, when it comes to DevSecOps, we can't talk about the infrastructural part or orchestration or orchestrator part like Kubernetes is. we need to consider the shift left approach and think about the earlier stages of the software development life cycle process. So this experience from the previous company definitely helped me to be prepared for this exam, but I need to mention that I needed to be better prepared when it comes to use, for example, Kubebench, to use 3D, to use other technologies required for doing some questions. Yeah.
Got it. And how do you compare? You said Istio was also hard. How do you compare Istio versus CKS?
I think Istio is definitely harder than CKS because CKS is Kubernetes related exam. Yeah. So we are still talking about native Kubernetes capabilities. So it's definitely easier to be prepared for the CKS. When it comes to Istio, I think the hardest part of Istio is that you need to deploy Istio on your Kubernetes cluster to have some hands-on experience. Istio is pretty heavy technology because it spans a lot of additional containers in the cluster, and understanding of the Istio ecosystem is pretty complex. And also I found many outdated materials in the internet when it comes to Istio. And also I think and also exam uses the older version of Istio, so the latest documentation may not be accurate.
Got it.
So yeah.
So on the 16th, you had the certified GitHubs associate and the Argo CD certification. Just wondering, like, how does a human being prepare for like 2 certifications in one day? So what did you do on the 15th?
Okay, so I did it intentionally because when I prepared for them, I found in the internet that many people told on multiple platforms that they are covering in some cases each other. So yeah, Argo CD is a GitOps tool. So I thought, okay, let's start with the GitOps principles and approach to the GitOps certificate at first. And then, because I have a broad knowledge about Argo CD, I deployed this technology many times in multiple environments with Argo events, workflows. I did multiple processes based on the Argo CD. So I was well equipped to, approach to this exam. So when I thought about this was, day of January related to GitOps for me. I approached at first the GitOps methodology exam, and I think the best way to prepare for the first exam, which is the GitOps exam, is to learn as many things as you can about the GitOps methodology and principles. And then Argo CD requires the broader knowledge because it not only consists of the methodology, but it requires a lot of other knowledge related to Argo CD itself, but not only. You can expect also Argo events and workflows, which are pretty different projects, but strongly correlated with Argo CD, yeah?
Got it. Awesome. And then you said you already have some experience working with Prometheus.
Yeah. Prometheus, for me, Prometheus is, this is the core technology when it comes to observability on Kubernetes. Many companies are using Prometheus for gathering metrics and building the observability platforms. So this exam, if someone has experience with with Prometheus, and also if someone understands how PromQL works, because PromQL is crucial, this exam will be pretty easy, but exam really deep dives into Prometheus. So my preparations for Prometheus exam mostly based on renewing the knowledge about PromQL and learning as many things as I can from the documentation about the Prometheus capabilities, like exporters and for example, pull gateway.
Got it. Awesome. So let's pick a few questions. So Rajat has a question. How do you retain, revise, such a vast pool of knowledge across so many tools and topics?
That's a great question. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe I have some kind of good memorization. I don't know, but so maybe I will answer from a little bit other angle. When I was an engineer, I intentionally changed my career path to manage teams, because right now I can share my knowledge with my teammates, and we can, by this we can amplify our impact on multiple projects. My knowledge is not limited to the one single project, for example, but I can turn my knowledge and help my engineers to grow and learn by knowledge sharing. And I think this is partially an answer for this question, because I'm continuously sharing my knowledge with the others. I had, multiple talks about, for example, interesting implementations of the certain projects. I have multiple talks about challenging the capabilities of the particular projects. We are trying to find edge cases about projects and why and when they are not usable for the certain use cases. And I think being a part of a community and having multiple opportunities to talk about technology, this significantly, helps me to remember everything and helps me to be up to date. So, and I encourage to work as a community, because this is the best thing that we can approach to the technology. Yes, we like sharing our knowledge, exchanges the experiences, finding the opportunities, how to implement something, finding the edge cases to not, to not follow the wrong paths. So yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah. So I think so your work experience, the stuff that you do, which are related to a lot of this, combined with your photographic memory, if I had to put it that way, right? I think probably.
I don't know if I have photographic memory. Maybe.
Obviously not. You definitely do. Okay. So another question from Kat Kaizen. So how about the endurance involved in taking so many exams at once? Like, how do you keep your energy to do so many exams back to back? Any tips, even if you know the knowledge, the exams themselves is tiring, which there's so much pressure. Like when you sit for the exam, you're the whole day, like you're thinking about it, or maybe for days you're thinking about it. And on that day, like you're highly stressed and you're cleaning your rooms and everything and, setting up for the exam. And during the exam, like, even if you're in an AC room, you're like sweating. And I've experienced that myself. But taking like these many exams, maybe even multiple ones in the same day. Explain.
Okay, so that's another great question. When it comes to, I'm not super stressed during the exam. Maybe I had multiple of them, so for me it's usual thing right now. But yes, when it comes particularly to the CNCF ones, you have retake, yeah? So if you fail, you can check what went wrong, you can improve your gaps and try again. So it gives a great opportunity to somehow decrease the stress level when it comes to exams, because this really takes helps if it will be necessary. But I'm focused on my planning. I'm not talking about plans, but planning for me is crucial. So I'm continuously planning next steps. So, for example, the Golden Kubestronaut wasn't a goal by itself. It was some kind of path. Yeah. When I passed the single exam, I scheduled another one. And by scheduling this exam, I knew that I need to be prepared, and I planned the way of my preparation. Basing on my understanding of the technologies, my former experiences, and because I'm aware about my skill sets, so it gave me an opportunity to pass exams one by one. But it's not necessary, yeah? It can be once a month. It can be bi-monthly, yeah? It can be other way of scheduling them. So I think the planning is crucial, and because you are planning your further steps, you can adjust your approach to be prepared for the exams, and I think it will also help regulate the potential stress. But when it comes to CNCF exams, you have a great opportunity to learn about feedback, learn from feedback that you are receiving with the exam results. Yeah.
Any energy drink that you would recommend?
No, I don't. I'm not drinking so much coffee, maybe once a day. Okay. So and I don't drink any energy drinks.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. So Joseph has a question. What area skills in Linux specifically would you say is the most important for achieving the certification? So I guess generally, all of the exams are, anything that's hands-on is based on Linux, and it's very important to have good Linux knowledge. Some exams that you have to be really good at Linux. I think CKS or others, right? But anything that you can specifically recommend within Linux that the people should focus on?
Okay, so maybe I will talk right now about all the 13 exams without this dedicated to Linux, because this Linux dedicated requires the broader understanding of the system, things like, scheduling, like process management and all other things. But for most of the CNCF certifications related to the cloud native technologies, you need to understand basically how terminal works. So how to define, for example, environment variables, how to filter something, how to search text, how to use a terminal-based file editor like Vim or maybe Nano. You need to feel convenient with the terminal itself. Without the other layers of system, if you consider for the only exam purposes, if you consider Linux as only terminal, you need to have a great feeling with the terminal and feel confident working with it, because it significantly helps during the exams. And maybe it's worth noticing one other thing, because when it comes to performance-based exams related to Kubestronaut program, like CKS, CKAD, and CKA, there is a crucial to understand how to work efficiently with kubectl command. When you understand how the kubectl schema works and how to use kubectl to generate the manifests, it significantly reduces the efforts needed to achieve the great results and answer the questions. This is a crucial thing. So my advice to non-Linux people would be to train using kubectl as much as they can on preparation to these hands-on exams, and in the next steps to find the convenient tool set in terminal to work with. For example, Vim may not be valid for people that are not, that don't have so much experience with the Linux. Maybe something easier, right? Like Nano when it comes to text editing, and it will be fine. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is the answer.
Yeah. Awesome. I think Rajat has a question. Like, how do you structure your learning to cover all certifications, or basically, like, how do you approach a skill to master it? Anything. Let's say you have a technology that you want to learn, something that's completely new, and I guess you've not come across that before. Like, how would you structure your learning to?
Okay, so when it comes to learning new technologies, I'm just starting with getting quick understanding what authors had in mind by building this technology, which problem the particular technology solves. And then I'm trying to deploy the technology by my own, basing on the documentation. I'm trying to not use any ready-to-go tutorials on videos, because I really like to learn by the feedback loop. If I fail on something, I'm trying to resolve the problem. And when I resolve this problem, I know how to resolve it in the future, for example. And this feedback loop gives me opportunity to remember the path to achieve the results, like, for example, deploying new technology on my lab cluster. So this is basically it. And when I deploy the technology, I'm thinking about potential use cases, or maybe challenging things that I can use against this technology. For example, I had some time in my life when I tested storage technologies for the Kubernetes cluster, because in my opinion, the storage is the hardest part when it comes to managing Kubernetes clusters. And I tested multiple technologies like Longhorn, OpenEBS, for example, Rook, and many different technologies, many different approaches, many different environmental requirements when it comes to infrastructure. And I did some benchmarks and compared these technologies, which is applicable to what, for example, applications where I can use a certain technology to resolve some problems. And also, for example, basing on the example of OpenEBS, I learned that they implemented in beta NVMe Express protocol. So I learned how to build a network layer for this protocol, to work with this protocol efficiently, to increase the IOPS of my virtual drives, which machines I need to select to build the cluster for this technology. So starting from the basics, for which problems the technology solves, to understand the author's mindset and why such technologies, begin existing, and then how to deploy this technology, and deeper challenging the technologies by continuous feedback loop on my own failures and mistakes that I make during the path.
So just maybe one last question that we can take. I know we're a little bit over time, but so Amiri has a question, maybe a follow-up to what you just answered, right? Just coming back to the original question of the why. So these certifications and these learnings, especially, you've learned so many different technologies in the past few months. Again, coming back to why would you want to learn so much, right? Like, how do you make use of the tools and the knowledge that you've gained from these certifications?
Okay, so right now, when we are working in companies for different industries, we are having multiple challenges. Yeah, so we never know when knowledge will be applicable and when we can amplify for example, project implementation in the future. So we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. Basing on this example, for example, I'm working in the, and I worked previously in the cross-functional teams. I'm working with multiple people across companies, with multiple business units, with multiple software development teams that are bounded to the particular services or microservices or monolithic applications. And if they want add some features, I can help them to speed the process up. So I think this is the major benefit when it comes to getting additional knowledge and checking that knowledge based on the certificates. And I think this is the approach on how I'm trying to apply the gained knowledge.
Yeah.
So, for example, when it comes also to consulting things, if I see someone who is who's new in the particular technology, I can approach, share my knowledge, and help people to push their projects further. So, yeah, and that's it in my opinion.
Understood. So I think just to add to that, so when you start your career at the earlier days, you're like usually working on one technology, right? Like either you're working on Linux, you're really focusing on that, or if you're like in the security field, you're probably like just focusing on that. But as you gain more experience, as you grow in the role, you have to start like really broadening your skill set, right? Because eventually when you want to be like a solutions architect or, at a management level, you want to know you want to gain broader knowledge of the ecosystem. So you want to gain different areas, right? So you do want to know how the developers are developing the applications and, all that entire cycle of building and, securing the application and pushing it production, and then hosting it on, containers or orchestration layers, and then finally configuring, monitoring, and observability and all of that, while making sure everything is secure. So I guess all of these certifications kind of help you learn that entire landscape, which eventually when you start to do more of a solutions architect role or a consulting role, when you're talking to customers, is going to be very helpful in kind of understanding that full picture and just connecting the dots. Otherwise, you're like very limited to this one area, right? So I think that's super important. So I guess, what you're doing, Łukasz, is amazing. The knowledge that you've gained in the past like few months across cloud native ecosystem and beyond into Google Cloud and others that you mentioned, obviously is going to be super helpful in terms of your own, working at your own organization as well as whatever you're going to do in the future. So, congratulations to everything that you've achieved so far, and all the best to everything that you're going to do in the future.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, so really appreciate it. So that's the picture that you have from KubeCon, and then yes, you had the opportunity to get a picture and get a standing ovation in front of a lot of people. So congratulations.